Mr. Oginni, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I know my introduction does not do justice to who you are and what you do. So please, we'd like to hear from you, directly.
Thank you, Mr. Cyrus. At least you have said a lot about me. Yeah, my name is, as I used to say on my online power academic, I pride myself as Oginni Ayoola. And in the last few decades, I've been in the power sector, core grid sector as an IT student about 24 years ago in the 10 PHCN. Why we transit from then to Ikeja Electrics. I think I worked with Ikeja Electrics for like 9 years before I exited because I just feel I just need to just take power on my own, and Ikeja might not be able to give me the kind of leverage I want. I want to exploit other discourse. So I now need to just join one of my boss, my Oga. At least I want to appreciate him because for even giving me this opportunity to be here, because we have a lot of job right now. I work presently with Prenedos Power for about 2 years now. I'm their project manager, and I have my own consulting firm too that I consult for power system people. And as well, I have an online power academic where I break power systems into pieces. If you are not even in the power system sector, if you want to learn anything about power system, go to any of my social media handles, whether Facebook, whether LinkedIn, any one of them, just type Oginni Ayoola. Anything you need to know about power is there. I think I did a series almost every 2 days on that place. And why I'm so happy is when I got this opportunity from my Oga to come and speak. As I said, maybe he knew I'll be speaking about renewable energy because for a while now, I'm talking about renewable energy. And I'm so glad to be here today. I want to appreciate my team too. Engineer Emmanuel Akimoboye, David, Engineer David, my BTS, Roslyn, and my PA, Oginni Joshua. My son is a PTA, though. At least, we need to catch them young. So, I think that is the few things you need to know about me. And what do we do in Prenedos? In Prenedos, we are into constructions of lines, installation and
Mr.
construction.
Oginni, I think we'll pick it up from here. That's a lot. For those who don't know, Mr. Oginni is it's a power consultant, and he hosts Power Academy online, with a huge community of people. I believe his drive is to educate people around power systems, across Africa. And that's why we are so glad to have him here. Of course, we'll be delving in, more about him in the conversation. But I would like to bring in Mr. Usoro. I want to believe I pronounced that correctly, and just give us a brief introduction of himself. Welcome, Mr. Usoro. And sorry for the glitches. We are very sorry about that. Please welcome, sir.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Cyrus. I hope you can hear me.
Very loud.
All right. Thank you. All right. So for my introduction is quite simple. I consider myself to be a power systems engineer, and then power systems is the background on which even renewable energy sits. So I've been in power systems for about a decade and a half, and then went into renewable energy. So I've spent quite also a while in renewable energy. I've been in renewable energy maybe about 10 years because I've always had it as a mix. In terms of where I work with a company called Levin Energy. Basically, Levin Energy is into different things. The arm I work in is the renewable energy arm. And I think the major thing you might want to know about that arm is that Levin Energy, we recently built a solar panel manufacturing plant, which is 100 megawatts. And I'm involved in that and projects in general. So I think that's a brief summary of itself. We'll talk more after I do.
Okay, sir. That's a very loaded introduction. Mr. Usoro is an enthusiast of solar energy, and like you said, he worked with LPV, if I'm correct, LPV, right?
Yes, LPV.
Yes, LPV technology. They are well known for solar energy, for energy expansion, for across board. So, and he has been a guest on different platforms. I think currently I saw you on Energy Outlook TV just a few hours ago when you were having the conversation. So I believe this is going to be an interesting conversation with him. So let's just delve into it because we've taken too much of our time. Let's delve into the conversation. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Usoro, with the questions. Yeah. So just let's start the conversation. So, Mr. So what do you think clean energy? Why do you think it's an important part of energy mix, particularly for businesses? What do you think? What is it about? People hear things like, oh, clean energy. What things such as, oh, why do I need clean energy for my businesses? Why can't they just focus on the traditional grid and whatnot? Why is this important part of the energy mix, particularly for businesses?
Okay, thank you very much, and a very good question. First off, to give a background, I would like to kind of define what clean energy or renewable energy, as many of us know it, is. And then that can also help us understand why it's important. So renewable energy, simply put, is a form of energy that you use and it replenishes itself. And then it's replenishing itself at a faster rate than you are using it. So you are not using it off in terms of, okay, I've used it and I don't have it again to use. So it replenishes itself, and that's very important. Then it's also natural energy. So a good one that we all know now is solar. And we know that solar energy is every day you wake up and the sun will rise. So solar energy is always there. And then in terms of quantity or abundance, you know that whatever we want to consider as the power we are consuming worldwide, it's not up to 10% of the solar energy generated on a daily basis. So it won't run out. So that's a background on the whole concept of renewable energy. It's clean, it's replenishable, and then it's replenishable at a rate that is faster than it is being consumed. So you're not worried that it will run out. So that's renewable energy. Then to the issue of why it's important. Renewable energy is important for several reasons. I know we all know the story around global warming, temperature rising, leading to different things like flooding, like what do you call it, drought, and all these adverse things we are seeing happening now. So we have to step back and look at how we've been generating energy and look at how it has been affecting our environment. And that is why the whole push for renewable and clean energy. The whole idea is to treat our environment better. Then the third leg of the question, which is, why is it important to our business? So businesses are one of the major consumers of power. If you want to check between what we use in our homes and residential estates and what you use in industries, factories, workplaces, you will see that you are going to have a statistics of maybe a 1 to 5 or a 1 to 10, being that whatever you use in your home is so small compared to what you use in the business place. And so if we are talking energy and we are trying to get it right with energy, it is only natural that you want to start from the business, which consumes most of the energy. So that's why it's important we talk about renewable energy in business.
Exactly, and I agree with you. And because there's a lot of misconceptions around what renewable energy, clean energy, it's all about, particularly for businesses. And some people feel like, you know what, why can't I just stay, with the traditional energy generation, power, the grid and whatnot. So I think that introduction kind of give a clarity to it. And I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned that we cannot run out of its source, right? And also the fact that it replenish itself. So it's not something that you keep feeding in. Like, for example, if you're talking about gas plant energy generation, you need gas, you need to drill gas. If you're talking about coal, you need to mine coal and whatnot. But here you have the sun, and then it's not going anywhere. But I think that that's a very powerful. And I'll come to Mr. Ayoola now. How can small businesses afford the switch to clean energy? Like, how can they? I think the question would be, how can they adopt it in terms of cost, in terms of affordability? Like, is this affordable for me? I think that would be the question for small businesses. Mr. Ayoola.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Styles. I think my co-host has actually spoke to what clean energy is all about. So because of the time, I'll just go quickly to how can the small business afford the switch into clean energy. Let me just say something. Actually, almost everybody right now, we are actually using clean energy. But we don't know because we were not being educated about it. Now, number one thing I'll just say is at least load assessment. Now, a small business that is leveraging on, let's say, grid supply, need to carry out a load assessment and how it can reduce its energy consumption. Somebody, like, let me just use a barber for an example, whereby he has his clipper to charge. He has maybe one or two things. Maybe he has a radio. They used to have a radio and television. Now, they use grid supply. So number one thing is, what do I need at a certain period? You need to start reducing his, what do they call it, this consumption. How does it do that? Number one, he start changing all his appliances to maybe energy saving equipment, which most of everybody on this platform is doing, but we don't know that we are already in the renewable clean business as we're talking about. Now, first thing is energy assessment and energy audit. What am I using that is actually consuming by this thing? How can I reduce all these things? Which one is not actually meaningful for me at this period? Nigeria, I'm sorry to say, we are wastage by nature. The lights you are not, you see somebody go to a particular home, you see all the lights in the old house on down. Now, thank God for the prepaid meter. I told you I'm coming from a background of, let me use the language we are used to, NEPA. In those days when there was no meter, you will see everybody under their light, nobody cares. But now, once you meter a location, you will see that everybody will control their energy usage. These same things go for a small business that is trying to go into a clean energy. The first thing is what? Do a total energy audit and reduce your consumption by what? By switching into energy saving. So that's number one. Number two, the conception that most of us have in Africa or Nigeria especially is, to build also called clean energy, especially solar, is very, very high. No, you don't need to start very high. Like last year, I attended a program, Energy Nigeria, in VI, and most of the companies now, they are going into solar. You see them as small as 100,000 naira, 250,000 naira. You can start like that small scales. They can get a small machine as low as 200,000 naira, place it in their shop. Once they place it in their shop, now they can start using it gradually. So number three that I will be speaking to is there are some great tariff. There are some companies like at least about 2-3 years ago, there is this company, MTN. Yeah, they are selling some this thing to them, the machine, whereby you just buy and start paying on instrumental. All this one now, it gives them energy as well. There's what we call government incentive as well. Today, most people, thank God Mr. Emmanuel is there and he's a finance person. There are some finance that can come from government whereby we can approach. When I was doing my study, I discovered that most banks, they always give grant or soft loan for small scale business to do this, but because of lack of education on this aspect, you see that most people are not just leveraging on that. In closing in this section, I think it's first approach, because the money is huge, don't start once back. When they are calling money, you see their quotation. There are some quotations that some people have done for us. You will see about 1 million, 2 million. You don't need to start from that one, because something a first approach, start a little. Just maybe some part of your supply, put them on clean energy, which is solar. Why some will be on this thing? Why you are using them, so that you start enjoying them. And part of it is long time saving. I know I need a solar, whatever of a thing, in my house. I'm talking about solar. Clean energy doesn't only stand for solar. Clean energy go as well with what we call wind energy too, whereby we use wind to generate too. So now long-term saving. I know by December I need a solar about certain megawatts. Let me start saving little by little now. So by December, you see that I will have been able to afford it. So now, with all this I've said, small scale business will be able to transit from a generic grid energy to affordable, renewable, clean energy. Thank you, sir.
Exactly. And I love the point you raise about auditing your energy. Like, you have to know the amount of energy you consume as a business, and it's something that many people don't realize that the energy that you do not conserve, like you just waste out there, it's some that ought to have been allocated to somebody else or to some other businesses. And also, I think the part you mentioned about educating yourself about the funds, the incentive, the handouts available for businesses that want to transition, right? There is a recent report by IEA that says 60% of subsidies globally now for energy now goes to cleaner form of energy. So there's a lot of investment, there's a lot of opportunities there that businesses, whether small or big businesses, should be taking advantage of. But because of the lack of education and lack of awareness, and that's why we are bringing this kind of conversation to fore, lack of awareness, lack of education, they don't see those incentives, right? They don't see that those opportunities. And I think that as the conversation goes on, we can at least delve into um, those opportunities, those arenas where you can get a little loan, you can get some incentive, you can get some handout from government to help your businesses. So if 60% of subsidies are going to cleaner energy, the federal government, for example, in Nigeria now, is putting most of its focus in things like LNG, like CNG, even though they are fossil, yes, they are fossil fuel, but they are still a cleaner form of energy emission. So right now, I think we'll move to this next session of the conversation. And if you're enjoying this conversation, two things first, like I said, this ought to be a video webinar, but we are still working on it. But secondly, if you like to invite somebody, just take the link of the webinar and then and invite somebody. That would be great. And lastly, if you have a question to ask, we have the question box where you can put in your question and then we ask our esteemed speakers. Now I think Paul Emmanuel will take the next question. So I will just mute my mic for now.
Okay. Hi. Thank you, Cyrus. Yeah. So for the next session, right, we want to actually look at the role that um, governments can play in supporting clean energy adoption. So I think any of our speakers can just contribute to this because I think this is a general interest topic where he relates to the government in one way or the other. So what role do you guys think governments can play in clean energy adoption?
Okay, maybe I'll speak to this and then I'll have my co-presenter also speak to it. I hope I'm audible. So,
Yes.
with regard to the question on what government can do, government can do quite a lot. And to be honest, government is also doing some things. So we are saying in essence that they are doing some things, but they can do more. So what can government do? The first thing is with government. Renewable energy or clean energy tribe. In that aspect, government has done quite a lot, but where we still have a disconnection is you have these policies in place, but they are not actually being carried out. So you have it on black and white, but in terms of execution, that's where we usually have trouble. So after the policies, the government will want to ensure that they are properly executed. So for instance, if you say I can import or I can bring in renewable energy things like battery, inverter, panels, and I am to waive, you are to waive tax or whatever it is, import duties to make it easy for me. It would make sense to me as a business person if I now bring in these things and for one reason or the other, I still find myself paying tax or paying one import duty or the other. So it's a good thing that you put it on black and white, but beyond that, you have to go ahead and make sure that this is being carried out and carried out easily and seamlessly. You don't have to make me go through different different channels before I can get this thing that has already been established by policy. So policy and execution is the first thing I would say the government would want to do. Favorable policy, tax incentives, subsidies, all these things are ways government can help. Then again, you want to also invest in grid infrastructure. And this is really important because if I, as an individual or as a company or as whatever, I'm able to install solar, for instance, and I'm able to install more than I need. So if I have a house, and in that house, for instance, I just need 10 kilowatts, and I'm able to install 20 kilowatts, I should be able to feed in the excess that I am getting into our grid system so that someone else can benefit from it and then pay me for it. So now that's where we now talk about investing in grid infrastructure. Do we have bidirectional smart grid that someone anywhere can feed into the grid and then he's getting benefit from it, and someone else that doesn't have the ability to generate the power so he's also getting benefit from it? That's another area that you want the government to look into. You want the government to look into the infrastructure that we have. How can we upgrade it to create an ecosystem that naturally encourages people to go green? And then beyond going green, they also go to that level where they can do excess, sell it off, and then sell that excess to someone that needs it down the street. So those are the things I think governments can do to help.
Thank you so much, Mr. Usoro. Let me just add on or two. I know you are my guy in this aspect because I'm just a facilitator. When I got an information to come, I think you can hear me clearly. Hello?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. I said, yeah, he has talked about the policies and implementation of public policy. Implementation and enforcement. Let me use the language enforcement because we are now getting to the period where people need to be enforced. I remember when I was in NEPA in those days, it looked annoying when you see a distribution company using generator in their sector, you that are selling a product. It look annoying at times as why are we doing this? So I feel government by implementing this policy and regulations, they can go into what we call carbon pricing. Any company that you see that they are using maybe a bigger generator of certain kVA, that they are emitting some kind of carbon into the atmosphere that can cause a climate problem. Enforce that they pay certain tax. I don't know whether you understand. Let them pay certain. Once you impose some carbon pricing on them, like pay some certain tax. Once a generator is disturbing the masses, you pay tax. You will see that some people will migrate from the grid system to what they call it, the clean energy. So I know that kind of policy, they need to actually enforce such policy. So number two I want to speak to, aside from the one Mr. Engineer Usoro has talked about, is we need to invest more in research and development. Now, yes, I'm just learning a facilitator of power system. When I got this invitation to come and speak, it put me into so many research for over 2-3 weeks now. I've been doing so many and it has opened my eyes. Oh wow! So I've been missing in this aspect. If some companies, some organizations, or maybe government parastatals too can invest in research and development of some of our young guys. Most of our guys now we are losing them to, so to say, the Yahoo. We can catch them young, let them go into research and development. How can we develop this thing? Engineer also talk about battery. Part of the core things that we need in clean energy is battery. Thank God for the litmus battery that is in the market now. People can still research more. We can still do more in that kind of thing. Last one, why we're talking about this public awareness and education. People don't actually know about the effects of what they call the effects of the clean energy. Because the effect is actually good for us. Because the one we've been using, we have been using the fossil fuel to generate. And even let me just use almost every Nigerians now, we are a generating company. Because hardly will you get to a home now where you will not see a generator. And you see those carbon, they cause effect for our climate, and it causes the climate changes, even kills. But by the time there is all this public awareness, and you know that this affects this, that affects this, you will know, okay, I need to go into renewable. And as I said earlier in my first introduction, it is not as cheap that we think. 90% of Nigeria right now, we operate what we call clean energy, because if we go to individual houses now, all of us are using energy savings. I think with those about 2 or 3 points additional to what the Oginni Usoro has said, I think this government can just do such a thing like that. Education, educates people, implement and enforce some policy. And lastly, I talk about at least the research and development. I think with those 3 things, in addition to what Oginni Usoro has said, we will be able to, at least government will be able to help the masses in moving from where we transit from where we are to the clean energy properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ayoola. So still on building on what we just discussed, right? Talking about how everyone is essentially a power generating company wherever they are. And I know, I mean, generators have been like a staple of Nigerian businesses. So now something that I am really interested in is the finances behind clean energy, right? How do we get small businesses to calculate the long-term savings of adopting clean energy? Because when you look at clean energy on the surface, it looks like, oh, yeah, spending or investing a lot of money from the get-go. But how do you like get businesses to look at it like long-term? This is the amount of money I'll be able to save by adopting proper clean energy rather than spending a lot of money on burning PMS and generators and noise and everything.
Okay, so I'll go again, and then my co-host will also say something. So this is a very nice question, if you ask me, because so businesses that are listening to this, that's where their main concern are. The challenge with measuring how much you are spending on power and then being able to gauge whether the clean energy option saves you money or helps your profit is that most businesses don't have a track on what they are actually spending. So it's now a problem to be able to compare side by side. But if you can, or if you already have a track where you have records of how much you're spending on petrol or diesel, depending on the type of generator you're using, how much you're spending on grid, how much you're spending on maintenance, even something as small as how much you're spending on transportation to go and buy the fuel. Because sometimes you can do a good job in keeping track of fuel and maybe maintenance, but you don't keep track of the small things like how much did I send my person to go and buy fuel just because he had to buy it for generator. All those expenses, if you put them together and you're able to say on an average what you spend in 1 month, then it's easy for you to project what you will spend in 1 year. And then from there, it's now easy for you to say, okay, if I spend in a year 5 million, for instance, and then if I have a solar system that I invest 10 million, for instance, in getting to set up, and then I look at 5 million that would probably be growing. Let's not forget that the thing with on clean energy is that the costs don't stay fixed. Your generator will be deteriorating, so you get to replace it after a while. The cost of diesel or petrol keeps going up. The cost of maintenance, both in terms of service, the service charge you're paying in terms of the materials you're buying, the parts you're buying, will keep going up. So the fact that it's 5 million you're spending this year, you shouldn't expect it to be 5 million next year. So you expect it to grow. So if you even have a track record of 3 years, for instance, and you can even project that, okay, in year 1, I did 5 million. In year 2, I did 6 million. In year 3, I did 7 million. So you now say, okay, every year I grow by this. So if you are able to put all that figure together, then you can then say, if I install a solar system that is costing me 10 million naira, and that 10 million naira, I don't have to pay as much in servicing. I don't have to pay for fuel every day. I don't have downtime because I'm not depending on when I have fuel or don't have fuel and all those things that come with using other sources of. So that means I can do business for longer I'm not limited by the amount of fuel I have. So I close my shop or my business at 4 o'clock when I can run till 6 o'clock. So when you put all those things together, you would see that this high cost in quote that we always talk about for renewable energy is actually cheaper, but it's cheaper when you look at it long term. So that 1 year that you spend 5,000 and then 2 years you spent maybe 5 million, and 2 years you spent 11 million. There's what we call payback time. Payback time is you've installed a solar system using solar, for instance, and then how long does it take for that system to pay for itself? So if I installed the 10 million naira solar system and it took 2 years for that solar system to pay back for itself, then the remaining years after that payback time is considered free because you still have that solar system installed. It's still giving you power, but you are not spending. So that is where you see the real cost savings you are making in putting clean energy. You don't look at it what you're spending today. You are looking at it what you are spending today, tomorrow, 1 year, what you're spending in 2 years, what you're spending in 5 years. So if I give you a system that serves you for 5 years and after 2 years it has paid for itself, that means that year 3, 4, 5 was bonus. And that's how businesses can actually look at it and see the reason to transition. All right, thank you.
Okay, you want me to speak to that? And also, I just justice to that one. What I would just want to add to it is educating people. He has been able to educate us now. Our thinking in the days was that this thing is. He was calling 5 million, 10 million. He's a big man. Sure you get. But coming to this level here, you can say actually like educate and give them awareness. This is how you can cut costs before you go into the clean energy properly. I said something. This is February. I know I'm going to clean energy in December. I have started saving between now and December. Okay, left from how much is my consumption as of today? Okay, every month I buy maybe 10,000 naira, we charge to my prepaid. I'll have about 3,000 naira for my generator. So I'm able to know how much I'm spending, including what I have said. Most of us don't actually think about the energy we took in getting those fuels and every other thing. So now we've been able to calculate all those things as at today. Multiply in maybe in the next 9 months, how much will I have spent? How much I have saved? Now, if I now invest, let me call big money like Morgana, 10 million naira. What I love about clean energy is it's a long time thing. Now, some can stay as far as maybe 15, 20, 25 years, as long as you have some things that we'll be mentioning in the course of these discussions. Once you have those things in places, you maybe lesser maintenance for you, and you just, let me use the street language, you just be cashing out. So now, all what you need is what? Calculate, okay, now what have I been spending? You can just look back. How have I been spending? You can pick one or two. How have I been spending? And now look forward. Now, what will this thing save me? Then you can know the long time saving, what will I save? But I must confess, green energy is the best. No matter how you want to look at it, it's the best. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ayoola. That was really, really insightful. Also, Mr. Soro. And I think there are more follow-up questions that will come around the whole financing thing down the line. But for now, let's hand over back to Cyrus.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emmanuel, and thank you so much for our panelists. That has been a very robust conversation. If you're just joining us, this is Energy in Africa webinar, and we are focusing on cleaner energy adoption for businesses, particularly small businesses in Africa. It cannot be overemphasized, especially in a climate right now where we are having issues like subsidy removal, increase in petrol prices, increase in gas prices, right? Because the generic energy that we are all used to, depend on things like gas. Countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Benin Republic, they all use gas to generate their energy. In fact, Togo, Benin Republic, and Ghana depend on Nigeria gas supply, and when the price of gas, which is exposed to local to global economy, global price movement, when the price of gas goes up, the price of your energy consumption will definitely go up. You cannot deny that. If you look at countries like South Africa, for example, which use a less clean energy like coal, for example, coal is also very expensive, right? There's a lot of infrastructure around it. There's a lot of building around it. It cannot be. You can't really use it for micro. Oh, sorry about that. The network is a little bit glitchy. All right, you can't really use it for micro usage, but clean energy offer, saving cost, and that's what we're talking about here. How businesses can save costs. Energy in Africa. Our website is energyinafrica.com, and Finance in Africa also, which my partner Emmanuel, which has been co-hosting this particular webinar. The website is financeinafrica.co.co, right? Financeinafrica.co. So we okay. I just been told now that com is also available. Financeinafrica.com. It's also directed to the same website where you can follow this trend, follow this conversation, follow news, corporate news, insight, industry trend, and what's going on in the energy space across Africa. Like I said, if you have somebody who think is interested in conversation like this, who is willing, who wants to save costs, who wants to adopt clean energy, we have our experts in the house, and you can easily invite them to be part of the conversation as we go on. Yeah, we have about 30 minutes left in the conversation, but I think we have interesting questions, interesting perspective to still look and delve into as we go on. I think my question now will be directed to Mr. Ayoola. Let me bring you in first now, and then we can move on. He said, the question is, what clean energy options are more accessible, and available given our climate in Africa? I think we've talked a lot about solar, but like you mentioned, solar is not the only clean energy. In fact, there are some gas-based clean energy, like we talked about it, in transportation. Those who are in traditional business now, there are those who are adopting PNG, compressed natural gas, as opposed to the usual petrol for their businesses, the e-hailing drive car riders and whatnot. So what are the options that you have, right? Because when we hear clean energy, many people always think about the quote-unquote solar that's available for our climate in Africa here and in Nigeria here. I would like to get your perspective on that. Please, you can comment.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Cyrus. Yeah, we are looking at Nigeria as a today. We are a growing concern, and we are still a developing country. What I would still want to say about is this. I'll talk about the solar and the wind. I was coming from work which they around the Agege area. I saw where they have the combination of solar and wind in that location. But as of today, yes, there's some CNG, but this CNG of a thing still have their own implication on our atmosphere. Because what we're trying to run away from is this issue of climate changes that as a result of CO2 that is being emitted from all these our non-renewable energy or whatever the thing. So now I would just say for now in Nigeria, we have not even started exploring the solar energy system. So I would tell maybe for now, we should stick to that because I think that is the most suitable for Nigeria for now. Because if we are to go into the wind, yes, wind will work for us. Yes, it will work. But there are some certain locations where you need to site your wind energy as well. And when we're talking about gas is good, but the implication of gas on our atmosphere, what it can cause. So that's why I will still stick to the solar type of energy, which is the best, which is the cleanest for now. Normally, we have in clean energy, we have about three. We have hydro, we have wind, and we have solar. Yes, because of the building up of dam, I'll be going to the hydro because building a dam right now, we make us to go into destroying so many things, which has maybe implications on our environment. So, and I wouldn't want to maybe you destroy because you want to generate some things. So that's why I say for now in Nigeria, as we are maybe gradually moving from maybe non-renewable energy, which is coal fire, oil fire, all those nuclear gas. We should just transit to solar. Then by the time we have been educated on how to use solar as a clean energy, we can now start leveraging on others. But for now, for me, I think solar energy is still the best for now for Nigeria. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And I mentioned it also when I was stating the question that solar seems to be the easiest and most accessible form of clean energy that businesses can adopt. Because of our climate, we have huge solar or sun concentration in this part of the world. So it's always there for you. And but like I said, there are other options also, and I would like to hear Mr. Usoro's thought on that. Please, if you'd like to share more or thought on other options that our businesses can adopt in terms of clean energy. Are you there, sir?
Yeah, I lost you for a minute or for a
Okay,
few
so
seconds.
should I repeat the question or you get the...
Yes, repeat the question.
Okay. I was saying, Mr. Ayoola mentioned that solar seems to be the easiest and most readily available um, clean energy that business can adopt given our climate, which I agree also. But I'm saying that there could be others also that people may not be educated in, like people may not know about that they can adopt given the climate of the continent. So I just want to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, so you are both right. Solar it's like the easiest and also about the cheapest. But that's not the only option. You have biomass. But the trouble with biomass is that what you put into biomass compared to what you get out, the ratio is not encouraging. So you put in more than what you get out. So it's usually good for setup where you're generating a lot of waste and it doesn't hurt to find a system of reusing that waste. You are not totally dependent on it. So that's where biomass plays. Then the other one is hydro. Hydro is also a very good one, but of course, hydro requires serious investment because you're talking about putting a turbine, you might have to do a dam, you have to create something that disrupts the flow of water, and that's serious investment. So that's usually best when it's government or large-scale industries. Then the other good one too is wind. So wind is good, but the trouble with wind is that wind might not be suitable for every place. So if you're in Lagos, for instance, and you're in a densely populated area with buildings everywhere and wind speeds are not encouraging, you might not want to do wind. So that's where the trouble with wind is. But solar, it's everybody sees the sun. And then solar is easily scalable. What I mean by scalable is that you can start small and grow as your demand grows. So the focus on solar too has also been a lot, both nationally and internationally. So it's always easy to find solutions with solar as compared to all these other ones that are more or less experimental, if I can use that word. So it's not just solar, but we'll say solar is more mature than most of the other options. So that's why everybody is talking solar. That's what I'll add to that.
Exactly. And there's a lot of options out there. I think what you should have in mind as a business owner is how do I save cost? And how do I have a reliable energy, right? Saved cost, have reliable energy. Because in Nigeria, yeah, if there's anything we are known for is buying generator. If you want to start any business today, the first thing you have in your mind after having your capital, after having your business idea, would be, how much does a generator cost? So instead of you thinking of just generator alone, there are other options that you can explore as a business. That is very, very key. There are other options that you can explore. And like our speakers have said, solar is one of them. Solar is very, very important. There are people who have even as just little as 1 million, 2 million, installment packages and whatnot. And then they can scale through from there, get more panels, get more battery, as their businesses, progress. I can see some hands up from our attendees. If you want to ask a question, please, you can always drop your question at the chat box, the Q&A box, and we would really appreciate, we'll really respond to you, allow our speakers to respond to you. I think there's a question here, but before we go into that, please, you can drop your question so that I think we'll be moving towards the Q&A session very soon. I'll just ask this one more question, and then Emmanuel will come in and bring in a finance perspective to the conversation. So the question is, and I mentioned is reliability. Reliability is very, very key. So it's how do we address the issue of inconsistent power supply? Mr. Ayoola, you are a power system consultant. You do installment, you do grid installment, transformer and whatnot. But you have to agree with me on this one, that we have issue of inconsistent power supply. We have the issue of the band-aid that they told us that with the band-aid coming in, there will be 20 hours power supply for certain consumers in Nigeria now. We have issue of investment. I'm talking about investment, increase in tariff. But one thing that we cannot deny is that there's an issue of inconsistent power supply. How do we address this issue with solar energy solution? Mr. Ayoola, please give me your perspective on this. Mr. Ayoola, are you there? I think you are still muted. If you can hear me. Okay, I think maybe he's having a network issue. We'll wait for him, but while we are that,
yeah, sorry. I'm with you now.
Okay.
I didn't unmute myself. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so we said leveraging on my past experience in power sector and the rest. Yeah, there are some things that I'll just speak to on how to maybe address the issue of inconsistent power supply with what we are speaking today. So what we need is we'll talk about the enhancing maybe grid stability and resilience. What do I mean about it? We need to go into the smart grid management. What is smart grid? Sorry, I told you I'm a facilitator. So smart grid is just announcing all the data and maybe communication resources to make sure our supply works better. So what I'm trying to say is that you leverage on other sources. Like, we're talking about the clean energy. One of the sources is solar. Another source is wind. While we're talking about the hydro, we have not been mentioning the hydro because of maybe the large investment that they need to put. But I will stereotype myself on what they call the two, the wind and the solar. So what we need to do is, one, our government need to do what we call smart grid. We've been doing that one whereby we announce all these two forms and connect it with our existing grid system to see how they can work well. So number two, what I'm speaking to is decentralization systems. Allow all the states, all the individuals, let them start generating on their own. Because now, as one of my research that I did about 2 or 3 months ago, shows that for us to have a consistent supply in all Nigeria at once, we need about 30,000 megawatts, which is very huge. As of today, we are still doing about 4,000, 5,000, and we're having a system collapse with that. So now, once we can decentralize our system to allow states to generate their own system, allow what they call it individual, let all these are rich man, let them just generate. Once everybody are able to do that, or Oyo was able to generate their own, Lagos State is able to generate their own, with that, then we will reduce the inconsistency in our power supply. Then everybody will be able to enjoy the supply at a point in time. Now, there are some policies that are put in places. I'm talking about the third one. The policies that are put in places now. They should need to enforce. I said it when we started this conversation that enforcement is part of our Nigerian problem. Oh, policy is sweet, implementation is our problem. We need to start enforcing. Let people start moving from us. What we are generating on the grid today cannot feed Nigeria. Forget about all this band-aid and B-band. See, band-aid is just only concentrating on certain customers for the discourse to make money. They are not actually favoring the masses. I'm sorry to say this. I know we are on the live broadcast. They are not paying us. Look at how much they are collecting on the band. Hey, is it actually solving the power problem in Nigeria? No. Has it solved the inconsistent power supply? No. So now what we need is implementation of policy for people to start moving into the clean energy. And I'll be speaking to at least development infrastructure. My guy said the other time, I mean, Engineer Usoro, let us develop our infrastructure. Though being in the sector, power sector, I am able to see that in transmission now, they are upgrading. Now, presently now, we are working for some distribution company we want to disclose. We are now improving their substations right now. But if there is nothing to supply, what are we building on? So I feel like allowing people to go into the clean energy, we actually solve the inconsistency in our power system. Once, let me use our area as a case study. In Ikeja now, maybe I think about 3 streets. Let me invest in these 3 streets. Let me liaise with the disco and use their own line to just evacuate my supply to the customer, and I'm able to like give them 2 streets supply. I have removed those 2 streets from the grid supply. Now the grid will become constant and stable when we are not putting pressure on it. I think I've been able to speak. And lastly, capacity building. We need to start building the capacity of our men working in the stations. Some of them, they have been in the power sector for how many years? No training for them. Some of them, they don't know that when there is a problem in the station, they don't even know how to do it. So when you don't build the capacity, when there is a problem, how will the system not be inconsistent? How will there be no problem? Even our field men, if there's a fault, how do they? So we need capacity building. We need training for our men too. I think I've been able to speak your mind this morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Cyrus.
Very insightful. We need capacity building. We need to educate even the staff as well as government policy execution. Like I said, we are moving towards the Q&A session, and we won't be allowing people to speak, but we'll allow you to share your thought and your question with our panelists so that they can address it. At the Q&A box, please put your questions in there. There are a lot of that. I've seen at least 2 or 3 questions there. So please put your question that you would like to ask, whether it's about the opportunities that you need for your own businesses, or even some observations you have or some clarity you need about the conversation that we're having right now. So like I said, we want to bring a finance aspect to it. It's not just about energy. Energy requires capital. Energy requires finance. Energy requires money, right? So even if you are adopting clean energy, how do I get finances? How do I get opportunities? How do I get all of these things? Very, very key. And for that, there's no better person to talk about that or to ask those questions except than my co-host Emmanuel Paul. Please, Emmanuel, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Cyrus. The way you were introducing me, I was thinking you wanted me to come and start being part of the panelists, so it's fine. But yeah, I think it's a major concern, right? So before we go on, please don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A section. It's just a little button. If you're on mobile, it's just by the top right corner. I'm sure there are a lot of technical questions you might have, financing questions you might have, safety questions you might have. So that's just by the way. Then the main thing now is, okay, yes, we've talked about the benefits of clean energy. We talked about how it makes sense, but the reality for Nigerians, the credit system in Nigeria in general is nothing to write home about. And it also extends to everywhere, including the power sector. And not a lot of people have 5 million to expend on a solar installation in one go, but it's possible that they might be able to afford it over a period of 12 months, over a period of 24 months. But I'm not sure how it works right now and if it makes sense. And even for the part of the companies that are even providing this service, how do they even offer it in a way that makes sense? So yeah, the question is just those financing options that exist for smaller businesses, and how can companies offer it in a way that makes sense for them?
Okay, so maybe I'll take a go at the question. With regards to finance, and you said it very well, that after all said and done, it still boils down to Naira and Kobo. And that's where people get stuck. You have people that have generators and they look at it that, I know that this thing makes sense. It's a long-term play. But when I look at how much I make, it's easier for me to spend the higher money on daily basis than to spend a lump sum. So how do you create a bridge? So my advice would be that there are many financiers now that have recognized this gap and they are trying to play in that space. Many of them do 1 year. A few of them, they do 2 years repayment plan. And also you have very few that do 3 years. The truth is that most of them will do 1 year because people are still generally trying to get into this renewable energy financing, and they are trying to be careful that they don't have long-term repayments that they are afraid might run into trouble. Just to spill out some names that might help whoever is in this kind of situation, you might want to look out for a company called Sunfi. They've been in the financing space for a while, the renewable energy financing space for a while. Sunfi, that's Sun is S-U-N, then Fi as in F-I. There are other ones, like I know banks now are going into it a lot. Sterling Bank has a session or a section of their business that go into renewable energy financing. I've forgotten the name. They used to be called Imperium before, but I know they have a new name. But it's owned by Sterling Bank. So you can also check that out. You can also check Access Bank. Access Bank, I know, have also started renewable energy financing. So you might also want to check with Access Bank to see what their offering is. But generally, the idea is that since the barrier to entry is usually the upfront cost, the high cost of having these things installed at once, these guys come in, and then there are two ways they do it or they handle this. One is that you can have someone that wants to do an installation for you. That's, you have an installer, and that installer has given you a quote, and then you go with this installer to these financing guys. They will do their own vetting of the installer, do their vetting of you as an individual, and then they'll now tell you whether the installer qualifies and whether you qualify. And then they now have a system where they pay the installer and you would be paying them over the agreed period, 1 year, 2 years, depending on what is agreed. That's one way. The other way is that some of them have, what do you call it, a system or a bank of installers. So you don't need to have an installer, or you don't need to have someone that has given you a quote. You just go to them and tell them that you want to have a solar. It's majorly solar. I don't think any of them do any other form of renewable energy but solar. So you want to have a system in your house, and they come do an assessment. They tell you what capacity works for you. They give you a price, an installer, and then all you do is you agree terms with them, and you'll be paying them, and they take it from there. So whichever one works for you, those are the two structures that they have. But what I'm trying to say in essence is that financing options are available. I also know Bank of Industry, though Bank of Industry, I don't think they do it directly. They don't do it directly for individuals, maybe for businesses, yes. So Bank of Industry, why Bank of Industry might be interesting for someone is because their interest rate is usually better than the commercial banks or private funders. So those are the options you might want to consider. And that's when you actually have a record to say how much you're spending on power. So that if you look at how much you're spending on power and you possibly look at your repayment, whatever you're paying on a monthly basis, it then makes sense to you whether or not it's a good deal. So you have to start from somewhere, really. They say where there is a will, there is a way. So once you have that desire to switch, options are available. You can also, of course, use the internet to check for more options, but these are the ones that come off my head directly. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Mr. Osoro.
Engineer.
Okay, Mr. Ayoola,
I just want to
please
add
go on.
one or two things. Yeah, thank you so much for what you have said. But in my own thinking, while I was doing my research last week, I met with one of my former boss in my former office, and the man is supposed to maybe he will be leaving the office maybe at the end of June. So he's so panicked, and I told him, "I'm going to contracting now. That's what I've been doing for over 2 years, and God has been faithful to us." He said, "I have money. How to invest it is my problem. Who can I give this money to? What can I invest it to?" Is there are so many rich men in this country that are not convinced where to spend their money. So I feel the people need education. People need to be educated, they need to be aware of what solar can give them. So now, if individual of us, like, okay, now we can like guarantee, okay, give me like 10 million, let me help you invest it. It's also so you will get money back. One of my colleagues in the office, I think they got a grant, and I think they do some installation around about 3 years ago. Was telling me, I don't want to mention the locations. Now they are cashing out big time. So what am I telling?
I think
Sorry, I
Mr.
lost
Ayoola.
him.
Yeah, I think it was a network glitch. But I think we can still move ahead with the conversation. Thank you so much for the contributions. I can see Mr. Ayoola is back. Mr. Ayoola, can you hear us?
I can hear you clearly. I think that cut off. So I'm back. So now, if you can like give public awareness, let people know, and the people can actually be educated. Like maybe you just take a spoon. Thank God for this morning. Thank God for this platform this morning. Those people who are now like thinking in a different direction. Oh, we can actually do things out. Now, boldly, once you have been trained, once you have much information about how these things work, you can always meet somebody that you know, whether in your job, mosque, or even on your street, and you know this person has money, but he's looking for where to spend it. Then you speak to the person. Once there's a trust, the person will leave money for you. Before you know it, that one can be as a grant, a fund, or maybe a subsidy. You don't necessarily need to wait for government because
Okay, I think there's a network there. So, but what we can do is, I think we have some questions already on the ground. But yeah, I think those are very, very interesting options that we've had with regards solar financing. Mr. Osoro mentioned some of them, and I hope we're able to pay attention and get really, really valuable things. Because at the end of the day, it just comes down, like they said, to the numbers, the naira and kobo. How much can I afford now? Very, very few businesses can afford to plan long term in a way that allows them to adopt solutions like clean energy. But with financing options, it brings the ability of the customers to afford these things it makes it much more viable to afford this. Now we have a question from Tayo. But before I read out the questions, I see we have two hands up, Engineer Lubumi and Gani Smith. If you want to ask a question, please just use the Q&A section. If you want to ask a question, I see your hands have been up for a while right now. So we're unable to unmute participants right now. So please just use the Q&A section to just type in your questions and we'll attend to it. Now, to the current questions we have on ground, we have a question from Tayo Ogeniro, and said, how do you convince people on business owners pretty much to install solar when they've heard of and seen burnt houses caused by solar installation and failed / unreliable systems around them? Mr. Osoro, please, do you want to take this?
Okay, that's an interesting question because I spoke to this just about a week ago. So, a very good question is, like a landlord might want to kick against it with social media having so much interest in buyers and panels. So first thing is that the education part is where you want to come in from. It's like saying, how do you convince somebody to buy a car when you know that cars have accidents and people die from accidents? You would always want to look at it that there is a reason for the fire. You always want to look at it that something must have been done wrong that has caused this fire. So you would not want to go into it with arguments. That's not the best way. You want to go into it with education. You want to tell the person why renewable energy systems are safe, what led to the fire. A good thing to realize is that these fires that we are talking about with regards to solar systems are mostly caused by poor installation. So when someone does a bad installation and it leads to a short circuit or some fault somewhere, and it leads to a fire, that doesn't cancel out the benefits of solar systems. So it's about doing it right, doing it with the right people. So you don't just go anywhere to get an installer. You don't just go anywhere to get someone to put solar panels on your roof. You want to get the right people. Secondly, be careful about pushing for things that are cheap. So when we say solar systems have a high upfront cost, there are people that think they can outsmart the system by going for cheaper things, and then these things lead to fires and stuff like that, and then they now blame it on solar systems cause fire. So you want to also get the right material. So you get the right installer. Make sure the installer you're getting is not just an electrician, because you have many people now, electricians, saying that they are installers, because these things go hand in hand. After you've set up a house, the next thing you want to do is to have a solar system. So you just generally think that the guy that helped you as the electrician is also good enough to do the installation for you. And then you find out that these are two different things. Yes, an electrician can train to become an installer, but the fact that he's an electrician doesn't automatically make him an installer solar system. So get a proper installer. Make sure you don't, you don't force the installer to go for a price that is not workable. These are the things you want to do. Then education. You have gas cylinders in your house. Gas cylinders cause explosion, but people still use it. The only thing is that they make sure that they know how to use it right. So you want to inform these businesses. Give good examples. Just Right is a chain of shops, and they are gradually changing all their shops to use solar. Would you say that a Just Right, with all the information they have about solar, would not know that solar can cause fire? But they have seen the benefit and they know that they are going to do it properly. So once you are sure your customer is going to do it properly, you should not have fears about fire. When you also look at what you are saving in terms of cost, especially as a business, it's different if it's an individual, but especially as a business, you can save a lot of cost. When you look at those two things, you see that you have more reasons to go into this thing than the fears of it catching and making your roof come on fire, and then you should be fine. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Usoro. Mr. Ayoola, are you back with us? Do you have something?
Yeah, at least Usoro has actually speak to it. Part of the problem we are facing that is resulting in this is just the greediness on the part of, let me say, both the installer and the client. Because by the virtue of the kind of job we are doing, I said earlier, I'm a consultant and I'm a contractor too. By the time you give them a quote, you are spending about 10 million naira on this project. They will collect so many quotes from different people. They'll not start looking at it. They are not knowledgeable about what you want to do. They are more concerned about the fund and finance they want to spend. They will not go for the cheaper one. The man that is not faithful enough will not get them all those cheap materials from wherever I want to get it to. Nobody to question it. I think part of what they need to do is the regulations. All these solar companies, too, I know we have a reputable one. We have those mushroom. Government now need to intervene. But when I saw one video that is going on the internet, I said, no, it has to be a poor installation or maybe poor materials. That they said in the UK, you should not put it on it. Is that one is that misconception? That is fact. There's something that I read now that is happening now. I think in Kenya or thereabout, there's this company that now I think I remember the name of the company. What they do right now is they don't even go for roofing anymore. Their roof is being packaged with solar system. So once you want to do the roofing, they approach you. Okay, you want to do a solar whatever everything. They agree. They will bring in, so your roof will actually be a solar panel for you instead of using normal roof and now put overlay the solar panel on it. So what we just need to do is we need to just be truthful and give it to the right person according to what Engineer Usoro has said. Give it to the right person and don't be greedy with your money. That one will give you peace of mind and rest of mind. Then it will solve the problem of fire outbreak in solar system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. So it's just about, yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, right? Not being greedy, not trying to mince, to be not trying to mince money, and of course being aware of the safety precautions you need to take. And of course, you also know that a lot of the devices we use, the cars, the gas cylinders, and everything, also have safety concerns, just for you to follow the right safety procedures that have been put in place. Now we have a question from Victor Bassi, and it's an interesting question. Say, between solar and biomass, which is the most cost-effective source of energy, not necessarily electricity, for micro businesses in underserved communities? Between solar and biomass, which is the most cost-effective source of energy, not necessarily just electricity, for micro businesses in underserved communities? Mr. Usoro, do you want to take a stab at this?
Yeah, so like you said, it's a very interesting question because the person is not just talking electricity, energy general. Okay, I'm not an expert in biomass, so I wouldn't want to speak as one. But from what I know, I would say solar is more, what was the question now? It's a better source because biomass, from the little I know, you usually want to use it in a setup where you're generating a lot of waste. And then you're changing this waste to gas, or you're changing this waste to whatever form of energy is looking at. And sometimes you have many businesses that don't generate as much waste that will be needed to sustain the biomass process. So if you are not generating that much waste, how do you now generate enough to say that you are powering your building or you're providing the energy that you are looking for? But for solar is pretty much straightforward. You have your solar panels and you expose it to the sun. And it's a case of just have the space enough for the energy you require. When I mean space now, I mean space to expose this panel. So and then of course, like I said, it's the more mature source of renewable energy. So options, there are numerous options. So you also have, of course, the hybrid system where even if you don't have that much space to capture energy from the sun, you can get energy from your grid and store in your batteries to use again when the grid is not available. So you see, it has matured to give you flexibility. But biomass restricts you. It restricts you to having that much input to get the required amount of energy that you need. So if you ask me, and like I said, I'm not an expert in biomass, I would say solar is a better bet for you than biomass.
Whatever you want to tell me today, solar is still the best and the cheapest for our country. You know, this conversation is for Nigeria and Africa as a whole. biomass is not that cheap in productions and whatever, and maintaining. And there's no way you use biomass without using generator. All these turbines we're talking about, they are generators. You will still need to maintain them mechanically. So now the solar, I think their maintenance is as cheap as whatever you can call it. So now when you invest on biomass, think about the other equipment that will bring the supply. It's not only the source of supply that matter now, what you'll be getting at the end of the day. If you have even the enough supply in abundance, and at the end of the day, what you are even spending on maintenance is more than what you are supplying. It has even maybe a fail on this. I'm not saying biomass source of energy is not good. It is good, but as we speak today right now, one of my lectures that I did, I said no matter how worse it is sure in Nigeria today that there will be sun in 1 or 2 days. Even let there be 7 days rain, sun will still come. Meaning solar is still the cheapest, whatever you want to look at. As long as Nigeria is concerned, in my little year, solar is still the best because you will always get sun. And all the maintenance of all those things are very, very cheap. And it does not add to maybe climate changes or maybe whatever, maybe any side effect for us. I think that solar is the best for me for now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayoola. I think that was a very, very straightforward one. Then I think to just round things up, Mr. Gani Smith asked a very, very practical question where he's talking about the cost of renewable energy. He says, as far as I'm concerned, the cost of renewable energy products are often on the high side. As far as I'm concerned, it really looks as if you are paying ahead for what you would eventually use. For instance, the cost of a solar system in my home today may be equal to the cost of generating my own electricity for 5 years or more. What if it's my intent to leave that venue for greener pastures, travel out before the 5 years time? Will this not appear like a loss?
Thank you so much, Mr. Gani Smith. Very, very good questions. And I'll give a straightforward answer. My boss, already get an accommodation. He bought a building around one location where there was no road around last year. Good morning. As I speak right now, federal government just feel like they need to tar the road and make it a link road to another locations. As of today, when the bank went to go and value the house, because of the road alone, the house, the value has increased almost ×2 of what he bought it. What I'm trying to say is, when you can't compare a house without a solar and a house with a solar. When you have invested in solar this year, and by the grace of God, you want to move to another country by the virtue of maybe 1 or 2 things, I am assuring you, by the time you are selling that product, the person will buy it more than, because it's as a result of those solars, the thing will sell more. You will still make your money no matter what, because you won't only sell it to people that don't know the value. You sell it to the people that know the value of solar and people that understand what it means to spend that kind of money. You will even make more, because this is money you have spent and you have to think maybe you are going to use it for the next 5 years or thereabout. But somebody is just coming to price the house. And part of the beauty of solar is, let me just say this. Now, if I have an office now and that is a solar built, if anybody is coming to meet my office, they will look at big ball. It's even using solar, because people see somebody that can afford solar in Nigeria as a big man. So anybody that is even coming to price the house, they already have a mind that they are not going less than this, because you have advantages over the other regular houses that is not having a solar attached to their house. I think that one will speak to what I'm trying to ask. You will make more money than what you are doing, because you can sell that in ×2 of what you have invested in that kind of property. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Ayoola. Mr. Usoro, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, so Mr. Ayoola has spoken well on this. Basically, when you look at solar, you always look at solar as long-term. So if you are to travel and you're possibly looking at traveling soon and you want to install a solar system, I advise you high quality. Because if you're in real estate now, you will notice that even the guys in real estate are using solar installation as a way of attracting customers to property. So if I come in to buy a house and I see that it's already fitted with solar installation, I am more comfortable. I think, okay, I'm getting a good deal. So if you are traveling or you are able to renting your house, and that house you are renting has solar installed, high quality solar installed, not just anything, you of course have the advantage of making your money back, like Mr. Ayoola said. So it's always a good deal. The only thing is when you now go for low quality products, and then as you are leaving, you cannot prove that this system is working well, then of course it will be considered a loss, because whoever is coming probably want to come do their own high quality stuff, and you're looking for where to sell products out. So that's why solar systems, it's important you don't just say I want to do solar, but make sure you do it right. That's all I have to add.
All right, thank you so much. I think that was a very, very interesting question and an interesting perspective from the responses we've got. So far, so good. Like, just to, without further ado, I want to hand over to Cyrus to handle the next section of the segments as we try to round up. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emmanuel. That's a very wonderful one. And brilliant questions from the participants so far, and also brilliant answers I've been following so far. And I think we still have, I think, two questions more, but I don't think we'll be able to take any further because we are way uh, ahead or above time. We're supposed to be here for just an hour, and now the conversation is so interesting that we don't just want to stop. I get that, but let's just have these remaining two questions that we have on our Q&A box. And then to continue the conversations, you can always, like I said, join us on our website, energyinafrica.com and financeinaafrica.com or .co. Anyone you choose will direct you to the website where you get everyday company update, industry trend, analysis, insight, expert views on what is going on around energy and around finance. So I would encourage you to also follow us on social media. We're online on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and as well as Instagram. So you can just follow us to follow those trends. The same energy in AF, finance in AF on those platforms. And just search us, you see us there, and then you can follow us on those platforms. Now, back to the questions. I think this question is, in the near future, if everyone and anyone choose to use solar in Nigeria, are we sure we can undo it in this country based on the fact that people are building tall buildings, skyscraper, blocking access to sun? And I will direct this question to Mr. Ayoola as we try to wrap up.
Yeah, Mr. Cyrus, I will want Mr. Usoro because he's a solar expert. I want you to answer these questions. Let me just give him to answer this. Here you understand.
Oh, okay, fine. That's nice. Mr. Usoro, please, you can go ahead.
Okay, so it's an interesting question. But then again, the good thing is this: when you're doing a solar installation, you generally have the position you place your panels. So because we are in the northern hemisphere, you always place your panels to face south. And then you are also looking at where the sun rises and sets. So even if you have high-rise buildings, the tendency is that you still have spots where the sun would be fully exposed on your roof. So it's not that you are going to be completely shaded. Fine, it might reduce the space you have available, but then again, you still have space. But if you even also want to look at it, I think the most densely populated city is Lagos. And in terms of human beings and in terms of building, it's Lagos. But if you go around Lagos and you look at people's roof, especially let's say you are looking at taking an aerial, you will see that you still always have a place to place your panels that gives you exposure to the sun. You don't have buildings blocking so bad that you don't have any space. So in terms of worrying that high-rise buildings are blocking your ability to harvest sunlight, I don't think it's a major concern for now. Maybe later in future it might be, but then again, you also have the carport solution. So people that don't have the right place to put panels on their roof, You see them using carports. You have this structure where you place your panels, where you can park your cars under. So that's still a second option that you can explore if for any reason the roof space does not work. Some people don't even like solar panels on their roof because they consider that climbing their roofs to fix these panels will cause leakage. So they just go straight to the carport option. So those are the options you might want to
explore. Okay, very, very brilliant. Like I said, I also like to add that if you're installing solar, right, even if you are a novice, right, and you want to invest in it, the people you consult in terms of having proper consultation. So that's why it's important not just like get someone on the roadside to help with your installation or whatnot. You need, the right names, the right reputation, the right information. Do your own due diligence. Those things are very necessary. That's what our speakers have said so far to guarantee safety, durability, and sustainability, right? So whatever it is that seems like, oh, this or this may work or this may not work, they will tell you. They will tell you that this is what you should know and what you should do so you don't waste your money. That is very, very important. Due diligence is very, very important in any scenario. And I think Mr. Usoro has, expanded on that so brilliantly. I think the last question we're going to have for today, because we cannot keep on for the time, we are way ahead of time. We are so, like I said, the conversation is very, very interesting. Would love it to continue more and more, but we can only take one more question for now. So the question is, I've seen energy conversion from magnetic energy to other forms, mechanical energy to be precise. Motorbike was produced using magnetic energy. This project was altered. It was deliberately put on hold. Mass production was discouraged. Reason, this can be a blow to the petrochemical energy, I think the petrochemical industry. Is this not a discouragement to this renewable energy industry trend? Is the fact that there's a lot of pushback going on, for advanced, widespread project of alternative energy? Is this not discouragement, for those who are pursuing renewable energy? Mr. Ayoola, would you like to take this so that we can wrap it all up?
Let me just speak to this one now. We need to look at the advantages of the two. Now, petrochemical, what is the advantages? Is it actually paying off? Look at how much they sell diesel and petrol today, and look at what we're going to gain in terms of what do they call it, the clean energy. So now, what I would just speak to is regular awareness. When people are aware, let them know the advantages and importance of the two. You leave them to just pick one. When one is killing, like when we're talking about the coal fire, the Umbini, most fathers of these generations, they die of respiratory problem. They don't know. Some of them, they see that maybe family attack. They just get home, they'll sleep, they won't wake up. Not knowing that it is the danger from the coal fire that they are working with that is actually killing them. But now that people are getting to know, they are getting to do something about it. So what I'm trying to say is that now people should be able to choose between what is killing our atmosphere. You see now, there are so many heat everywhere. What is causing it? It is all this CO2 that is being emitted into our atmosphere that is causing all these climate changes and whatever we think. Why clean energy like solar is the one giving us a clean energy? So now which one should I choose out of the two? So that nobody is shorting anybody. But what I just try to do is, once you educate people, once you have the right knowledge and right understanding and right information about something, they will tend to choose right. What is killing us in this part of the country is we get half information or half knowledge and we run with it. But when we have the advocate, like a platform like this that you have given us, when people are hearing and they get to tell other people, oh, this is what clean energy can do, this is what maybe petrochemical energy can do for us, which one is the best? By that they can choose, they will replicate, and what you see is nobody is confusing anybody, everybody will go for which is the right. So I feel what it's trying to say is maybe one person, if we want to invest, you will look, when you have a good basis to invest on, you look at which one is giving me opportunity, which one is actually helping us, even as a country as a whole, and which one is actually affecting my life. So I feel going for renewable will not actually say maybe you don't do that petrochemical, but it's still the best over one. And technology is advancing. As it's advancing, thank God for Nigeria, thank God for our oil. I keep on telling people in the oil business, oil will still boom. But by the time technology start coming, there's so many things that will be as cheap as anything for us in this country. For me, clean energy is still the best. It's still the best. You can't just compare with any other one for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Ayo. That cannot be overemphasized. Clean energy is to the best. And yes, there will be pushback. It does whenever there is uh, a, an advocacy for an alternative use of energy, those who have been in the established or the traditional generic energy energy scene, energy industry would definitely want to push back. And that's why we need to educate ourselves and get the right perspective and the balance uh, information around these things. I'm seeing some questions coming in, but like I said, we are way out of time. This is Energy in Africa webinar, adopting cleaner energy for businesses across Africa. This is just the first part. We'll be having more conversations going on like this every month around clean energy, around oil and gas industry, around renewables, around electric vehicles, and the most exciting things going on around the energy space across Africa. But I really want to thank our panelists. I want to thank Mr. Ayoola Aniefiok. I want to thank Mr. Aniefiok Usoro for taking time out to explain to us and to share their own distilled knowledge of experiences, decade of experiences with us on how to adopt clean energy and the benefits around it, and how to side to how to sidestep the challenges that we might encounter. If you want to be part of this conversation, you want to get more information, more knowledge every single day around the energy space, and as well as around the finance space, because they go hand in hand. Not just energy. Energy requires capital, and then when you have capital, you have investment opportunity. The energy space is a place that you want to put it, because you are guaranteed a sustained return on investment. So energyinafrica.com, you please go on the website every single day. You get industry trends, industry insights across Africa. We don't just cover Nigeria, all across Africa, as well as financeinafrica.com. You will get all of those information there. Thank you so much to our participants, those who ask questions, those who take their time, out of their busy schedule to listen. And thank you so much to the panelists. We really appreciate the time. For now, we're going to say goodbye till we see again next time. Thank you.